What's up, movie lovers? I'm Mike, and this is Gotta Love Them Movies. Oh, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us back here on Gotta Love Them Movies. It's a beautiful Friday afternoon. Hope you're having just as much fun as we are over here in the Gotta Love Them Movies studio. All sorts of good things happening. Today, if you are not familiar with the format of a Friday show, today is a debate show. So we've got two head-to-head debaters taking on the reins of who is going to be debating. But if this is your first time to Gotta Love Them Movies, welcome. Gotta Love Them Movies is just an online forum where we can all come together and enjoy our favorite things in the world, movies and movie news and all sorts of that good stuff. And, normally we talk about, like, the latest things in movies and what's happening. But like I said earlier, on Fridays, we like to have a debate show where we come up with some ridiculous scenarios, some a little bit more straightforward scenarios, and we debate these topics back and forth. And coming back from defending her title, her championship title, coming all the way from Anchorage, Alaska. She has multiple credits in movie thesis in World War II history in terms of film. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together for our reigning champion, Ms. Kay Hartman.
Yay, happy to be back.
How's it going, Kay? How you been?
Good. I took the day off today, so I've been napping and catching up on The Boys. So a well-spent Friday morning.
It's so good. How far, like, no spoilers, but, how far into The Boys are you right now?
So I watched all of season 1 last year when it came out, and today I finished the first episode of the new season. I have a friend who actually did some of the special effects on the show, and I asked him every once in a while, I'll say, like, okay, what can you tell me about now? Because he has NDAs all the time.
Yeah.
And he's like, okay, so you know that first part in the first episode of The Boys where the girl gets in the he's like, I did that, and I got told to tone it down. I was like, oh, that was the toned down version of that.
Oh, wow.
So fun stuff all around. But yeah, I'm looking forward to watching more new episodes every Friday.
Yeah. Well, welcome back to the show, Kay. It's so good to have you back, and I guess protecting or defending your title as champion debater here on Gotta Love Them Movies, or Gotta Debate Them Movies. And for our challenger today, his first time appearing on Gotta Love Them Movies and first time debating, most definitely, one of my best friends in the whole entire world. He's an improviser, he's a comedian, and I'll let him tell more about his own qualifications. But ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together for my best friend on planet Earth, Mr. Josh Hurley. Oh, of course we have... nope, sorry, Josh, you're not up yet. See, this is why we ask our Skype guests to Skype in early, because I need a little bit of time to put them on screen. And
well, can you hear me?
Yeah. Okay, yeah, we can hear you now. Hold on, I need to resize your tile screen. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the joys of doing a live show. Sometimes you have technical difficulties that you didn't plan for. Welcome to the show, Josh. Yay!
Hey! Can you see me now?
Yeah,
Am I close enough, or am I not close enough?
Can you get a little bit closer, please?
I'm just kidding. Okay, great.
Josh, how's it going?
Excellent. It's going. Things are going. What is today? Friday?
Today is Friday.
Okay, so it's a Friday. That's great. That's a good thing.
Josh, you are a challenger for today. You're helping us debate a few topics here and there. As we all know, the subject is 80's movies. Today's our 80's edition of Gotta Debate Them Movies. So, what is it, Josh, that makes you qualified? Like, what is it you do in your day job? And how well do you think you're going to fare against our reigning champion?
That's a great question. And an even better answer would be that, I don't know. I will say I was born in the 80s, so already I'm a product of the 80s myself, and of the early 80s, but I was born in the 80s, and
but
so I feel like
Yeah, but you work in the entertainment industry.
I do. Yes, I'm a voiceover actor. I'm a narrator. I do a lot of audiobook narration and voiceover and things like and such and things.
And you're also
an actor,
comedian.
improviser.
Yeah, I mean, you've been improvising for improvising circles around me. But how long have you been at the art form?
Gosh, honestly, over 10 years and under 21 years. So
Over 10 and under
about
21.
20 years.
Sounds good.
About 20 years I've been doing it.
All right. Well, hey, we've got ourselves a match today, ladies and gentlemen. We've got ourselves a match. So let's just jump right into the show order. This is everything that we're going to cover today. As always, I'm going to tell you how to subscribe to the YouTube channel and why that's important. Next, we're going to do a really quick Toy Tuesday recap, and then we're going to jump right into Gotta Debate Them Movies. So let's just do it, shall we? If you go over to youtube.com and type in Gotta Love Them Movies, you'll see a little red square in the top right-hand corner that says subscribe. Go ahead and click that subscribe button. By clicking the subscribe button, what doing that does, man, English, why is it hard for me? What clicking the subscribe button does is it helps build our subscriber base. But Mike, we're watching the show live on Facebook. Yes, I understand that. But the more subscribers we get on YouTube and the more views or hours, cumulative hours of watched content on the channel, I begin to qualify for ad revenue, which means I get to make this job or this show my full-time job. And of course, as always, once we hit 1,000 subscribers, the show will be moving from Facebook to YouTube. So again, just something to look out for in that regard. All right, moving on to a really quick Toy Tuesday recap. This Tuesday, we are giving away an 8-bit Donatello Ninja Turtle Funko Pop. So if this is something that catches your eye, if you're thinking to yourself, I would like to put this in my collection, go ahead and jump down to the comment section below and write the words Toy Tuesdays -8 8-bit Donatello. 8-bit Donatello, Toy Tuesdays, write it in the comment section below. And also be sure to be a subscriber of the YouTube channel. Like and share this video. That's all you have to do to subscribe. It's pretty simple. All right, guys. So that does all of our pre-show. And now it's time to Gotta Debate Them Movies.
I don't know what we're yelling about! It's terrible! She has beautiful eyes and her hair smells like cinnamon! Loud noises!
All right, you guys. If anybody wants to send in a debate question, all you have to do is email me at GottaLoveThemMovies@gmail.com. You can write in any kind of a movie question that you want, but today, it's a theme show. We're doing some debates. So if you have a debate hot and topic off the top of your head, if there's something passionately that you want to see our debaters debate online, send me an email at GottaLoveThemMovies@gmail.com, and we will make your debate question one of the main top 5 debate questions that we have on next Friday's show, or rather in 2 Fridays from now. As you may know, we're not doing a show next week, so but more on that later. Anyway, if anybody has any questions about the rules, here are the debate rules. There will be 5 rounds. Our debaters will be assigned which topic, which side of the argument that they will be defending. Each debater will have 5 minutes in total to present their argument, and the winner for each round will be determined by who crafted the better argument, not by what we think the better film, actor, or character is. Best of 5 wins. Winner will return next week, or rather in 2 weeks, to defend their title, and a coin toss will determine all ties.
A coin toss? Is it a coin cost?
Oh, that's right. Thank you, Kay Hartman. It is a coin. It is a coin cost.
Coin cost.
It is not a coin toss. It is a toin cost, as my English flubbing usually tends to go. So Kay, thank you so much. Kay, speaking of which, are you ready to start debating today's movies?
Let's do it.
Let's do it. And Josh, again, hold on one second. Let me resize your screen here. Ta-da! The magic of live television. Josh, are you ready to start debating on today's show?
Oh yeah, as they say in the movies, here comes your feature presentation, because it's yes, I am. Yes, I am.
Started off so promising and then just Yeah.
Kind of tapered off a little bit, yeah.
I like to make a run for it at the start and see what happens on the landing, but sometimes.
Oh, fantastic. Well, you guys, we are just about to start, and just when I say just about, we are going to start debating them movies. And debate question number 1 is a John Hughes particular topic. So, ladies and gentlemen, or rather, lady and gentlemen, what is the best John Hughes movie? Is it The Breakfast Club, or is it Ferris Bueller? Now, Kay, you are our reigning champion, which means I'm going to let Josh have this particular toin toss. Josh, I'm going to flip the coin. Heads, you will be arguing for Breakfast Club. Tails, you will be arguing for Ferris Bueller's Day Off. Are you ready?
Okay, I'm ready.
You don't have to call anything in the air. It's just going to happen naturally for you. So, let's see. Let's do the coin toss. And it is Tails. Josh, you will be arguing for Ferris Bueller's Day Off. And Kay, you will be arguing for The Breakfast Club. Which is the best John Hughes movie of all time? Kay, you were not the beneficiary of the coin toss, so you will begin our debate today. Are you ready?
Yes.
Kick it off.
So, thinking back to The Breakfast Club, the ultimate storyline, the lesson we're all meant to take away from it is that we're all different, but we're all in this together. And if you look around our world in 2020, that's a message that I think we could all still benefit from, even if it's from a film from 1985. Plus, so many iconic moments in the film that we see recreated. I think I saw the Breakfast Club dance in Bob's Burgers once. Like, so many iconic moments. So that's why I'm saying that this is the better John Hughes film.
A lot of iconic moments, Josh. Fairly strong opening statement. Do you have a strong opening statement of your own to argue for Ferris Bueller?
All right, look, we're talking about the 80s here. And yes, The Breakfast Club is certainly one of those things, and The Breakfast Club is totally beloved. But when you say Ferris Bueller's Day Off, instantly it is instant nostalgia, instant excitement. People who love this movie love this movie. It is ultimate 80s. Matthew Broderick in his defining role in his entire career, I would say. Just the sheer sort of scope and fun of this movie is it's insane. It's an adventure pick of the highest order, teen comedy adventure pick. You can't get better than that. The Breakfast Club is, I would argue, maybe it's a little more dramatic. But if you're talking about fun John Hughes movies, quintessential John Hughes movies, you can't get better than
can't get better than The Breakfast Club.
You can't get better than The Breakfast Club unless you're talking about Ferris Bueller's Day Off.
Interesting. All right. Josh brings up an interesting point. People who love this movie love this movie. Kay, do you have a rebuttal?
Yeah, absolutely. I think we all know somebody who was a Ferris Bueller in our life. And did we like that person? No. That person is kind of a jerkwad and gets away with everything. And that's not a lesson I want to take into the world. And also, he treats Cameron, his best friend, like garbage. Totally, throughout the whole film, pushing him to do things he doesn't want to do when he clearly has some sort of anxiety or something, and that's just not fair or fun for anybody. So while Ferris Bueller might be a fun little character off doing his little thing, that guy's kind of a dick.
Wow, Josh, some strong, harsh words against Ferris Bueller. Would you care to defend and or criticize The Breakfast Club?
I would like to defend what you were saying there. Yeah, Ferris Bueller is not necessarily inherently the most lovable character in the world. However, he does fall into that long line of literature tradition of the Puck, the ultimate sort of Puck trope character who is a protagonist, but also creates kind of chaos. Dionysian chaos in an Apollonian society, if you will, for creating excitement. The Breakfast Club is a small microcosm of just individuals and their sort of individual personalities. However, Ferris Bueller's Day Off, it follows this Puck-like character throughout the day and just shows kind of what chaos and mayhem can ensue. And this is kind of an escape movie. This is obviously not reality. This movie, you can see how this movie is not real, but it's just fun to follow it. And yeah, Ferris Bueller's kind of a guy that you might love to hate, but man, he's just kind of that guy that you kind of secretly want to be your friend, but he's not, so you kind of hate him anyway. But yeah, you're right. There's definitely some sort of like him and Cameron. Also, anyway, I'm going off on a tangent, but there's also the theory that I've heard that Ferris Bueller doesn't actually even exist, that it's all a figment of Cameron's mind, and that's a theory that's gone around too. So there's a lot of deep philosophical thoughts in this. In terms of like how you could even interpret this movie. It could even be bigger than just the literal interpretation.
Wow, okay. I mean, that's a strong argument. Josh is pulling out words like Dionysian and, like the philosophical merits of, the possibility that you could interpret this film as though none of it exists. It's all in the mind. How do you respond to something like that?
Well, my opponent makes some great points, and I think all those points could also apply to The Breakfast Club. I don't understand why any of the points he just made don't also contribute to these characters, some of them being more Puck-like than others, some of them being more trickster than others, and I don't see why we have to bring it down to just Ferris Bueller's Day Off with the one character when we have so many diverse and exciting characters in The Breakfast Club, and that again has that great message of we're all different but we're all in this together, as to where Ferris Bueller's message is I like to do things and I like to get away with things and I'm gonna. And what kind of message is that?
All right. Well, Josh, winding down to our closing arguments, what is it about Ferris Bueller that is just purely a better film, a better story, better acting, all of it? What is it about Ferris Bueller that makes it the better film, or rather the best John Hughes film over Breakfast Club?
That's a great, my opponent also makes some great points. And I'll be the first to admit, I love The Breakfast Club. I think it is a fantastic movie, and it's absolutely one of my top favorites. However, this movie defines the 80s. This has got the attitude of the 80s, the sort of arrogance of the 80s, the sort of like excess of the 80s, the sort of party mentality of the 80s. It's got the sort of that like fun at all costs of the 80s. It's really sort of like a capsule of the sort of excess and sort of the indulgence and decadence of the day and of the times. Sort of the ideology of sort of like, let's see how far we can go. Let's see what we can get away with. Let's see kind of the attitude of like every teenager sort of wants to be able to like have a day like Ferris Bueller in some sense, not in every sense of the word, but like he definitely sort of exemplifies the idea of rebellion. And the 80s is a huge rebellious period in American history in terms of like bigger, faster, more sort of that attitude. And I think that encompasses the decade, it encompasses the genre, it encompasses the entire essence of the teen comedy in that time period.
All right. Wow. Yeah, a lot of strong closing argument points. It's, it's very encapsulating of the 80s and representative of everything of what the 80s was, and has a lot of theories to go along to support like this is all encompassing in like a perfect representation. Pretty cool. Kay, final arguments. What is it about Breakfast Club that makes it the superior film over Ferris Bueller?
So Ferris Bueller really focuses on that idea of the 80s, 1980s being the me decade, the very superficial, everything's about me. And this film gives us a respite from that. And not only do we get a break from that idea of it's all about me, but we also get all these social integrations of the haves and have-nots working together and unifying in the most awkward way possible. Detention, something that most teenagers can identify with. I don't know how many teenagers can identify with leading a parade down the street in Chicago,
sure,
but they can definitely identify with, maybe ending up in detention one day and, having something interesting come of it and realizing that there's things beyond those surface level appearances that we see with people. So it's so much a lesson of like, let's not judge, let's learn. And I think there's a lot to be learned from that, even, now in 2020. It's been a long time, but that's the sticking power that this film has.
Wow, some strong arguments, you guys. Before I deliver my final ruling, let's just jump to the comment section. And Robbie Spratt says, "Hi, Mike." He also says, "Hi, Josh." Well, hello, Robbie.
What's up, buddy?
Oh, sorry, Josh, we didn't hear you. Say it again.
I just said, hey, Robbie, what's up, buddy?
Robbie, we hope you're well. It's been a long time since we've seen you, sir. Andy Danish says, "Aw, I know these guys." Well, we know you too, Andy. And Andy, you were a guest on the show as well, so hopefully have you back sometime soon. Andy Danish also says, "I'm hashtag Team Ferris Bueller." So we have Andy pulling on the side of Josh over there. But I need to make a final ruling here. Ruling these things is quite difficult because you both bring some really great arguments. Kay, I really connected with your social argument of like, Breakfast Club is all about the social experiment in saying, here's 5 different archetypes from from not just this world, but from the world that we live in. Whereas Ferris Bueller only has like the one archetype, and he's kind of a jerk. Like, he goes off and does exactly what he says or does whatever he wants. And Josh, you kind of agreed with this. I'm sorry, say it again, Kay?
Not only does he do what he wants, and then he gets away with it.
It's true, yeah, he gets away with it. Where Josh, and you also kind of, played into, or you agreed with this idea that, yeah, I mean, he's not the most likable of characters. But then you brought like this really cool argument of saying like, there's so much more at play here than just meets the eye. There's a lot of theories to say that, maybe Ferris Bueller didn't exist, and the more philosophical implications of that I found to be very interesting. At the end of the day, I don't feel that those more philosophical debates were all that valid in this particular argument, because those were things not contained within the movie. Those were all things that came as a result of after the movie coming out, and people online trying to have like some really fun and interesting discussions, making a kind of a thesis statement and then backing it up with things from the movie. It wasn't something that the filmmaker ever intended upon, and for that reason, I'm going to give the point to Kay in the first round. So yay! Kay, you're the winner of this particular round. Josh, this is your first time debating on Gotta Love the Movies. This is your first debate. We still have 4 more rounds to go. How did this feel for you?
It felt good. It felt like it was fun. It was fun to kind of get into it about that. And truth be told, I love both of those movies. They're both great for so many different reasons. So it's kind of hard to honestly pick. John Hughes is a hard person to sort of pick a movie and fight for, because they're all
spectacular.
All of his movies are so good. Yeah.
Ferris Bueller's the first DVD I ever bought after moving out.
Ferris Bueller was the first DVD you ever bought after moving out?
I found it in the $4 bin at the Target at the Empire Center Target in Burbank, California.
Ooh, does it still exist? Awesome. Is that even around anymore?
It's on the Target or the DVD? Because the answer is yes to both, but the DVD is on the shelf on the other side of this wall.
Perfect. I'd like to jump back down to the comments section really quick. Robbie Spratt follows up by saying, Ferris Bueller is my favorite of the two as well. It's just more fun and the characters are more likable. Well, Robbie, maybe we need to put you on Gotta Debate Them Movies, and we'll see how you fare against. We'll see who's how today's. I'm sorry, Josh. What was that?
Is it how you Ferris?
How you Ferris? That's we'll see how you Ferris. It's true. Anyway, Kay, you are the winner of this particular round. So now it is time to move on to debate question number 2. And our second debate question of the day is: in Back to the Future, who played the better Jennifer Parker? Was it Claudia Wells or Elizabeth Shue? So for Claudia Wells, Claudia will be heads. Elizabeth Shue will be tails, and because we gave the first coin toss to Josh, Kay, you get the second coin toss. Heads is, like I said, Claudia Wells. Tails is Elizabeth Shue. So here we go. And you will be arguing for Claudia Wells. Josh, you will be arguing for Elizabeth Shue. So, Kay, you went first in the last round, which means, Josh, you will be going first in this round. Elizabeth Shue, what is it about Elizabeth Shue that makes her the better Jennifer Parker in Back to the Future? Go.
All right. Back to the Future, pretty much as perfect a trilogy as you can get, I think. Though it is interesting that they picked that they had a different actress. Now, I know a lot about this movie, and I love this movie, but I don't necessarily know exactly why they did that. But
let me just offer a little bit of clarification for anyone who's not familiar as to why they got two different actors to play the same role in the trilogy. Claudia Wells played Jennifer Parker in the first film. When they came back to do parts 2 and 3 simultaneously, her mother, Claudia Wells' mother, was having some health issues, and so she wasn't able to sign on to continue for films 2 and 3. Hence, they recast as Elizabeth Shue. Thank you. And yeah, so and nobody noticed. So that's why the switch in actors.
Great, thank you for that clarification, because I did not know that. But yeah, I think that so Elizabeth Shue is Elizabeth Shue. Let's just face facts and just admit what a great actor she is. And second of all, in the second movie, she had such a much bigger arc and a much bigger part to play. And the third one, sure. And she's fantastic. She's a great actor, and they simply gave her more to do. I think the first one, obviously is classic, but she just didn't do that much in the first one. Whereas in the second one, she had a much bigger part to play, and she played it very, very well. And the second one's even more complicated than the first one. So to be able to fit yourself into this big puzzle that you've just been thrown into the mix of, and good on her for jumping in and just rocking it. Yeah, I think she definitely deserves accolades.
Sounds good. Okay. We just heard from Josh that Elizabeth Shue is the kind of actor that took over a role that she was maybe a little underprepared for, and she knocked it out of the park. She did a great job. She did 2 movies. The second movie was, or rather, the first of her 2 movies was a little bit more complicated than what Claudia Wells had to do in the first Back to the Future. What is your opening argument there?
Well, all of those points are valid. I can't deny that. But Claudia Wells, without her, that character that was picked up by another actress and continued wouldn't have been there for that to happen. And it's not that hard for somebody in the Back to the Future films to take over someone else's role, because they did it so much. Crispin Glover was only the dad in the first film, and he even sued them and won in court because they made the other actor up to look so much like him, playing George McFly in the next 2 films. Eric Stoltz, I think, was the first Marty McFly, and they filmed for weeks before recasting. So this isn't a trilogy or a franchise that is not familiar with recasting characters. So while I would usually say, yeah, that's great, she picked up the mantle and she ran with it, this franchise does that all the time. So there's nothing really special about that.
Wow, Josh, nothing really special of it. And where did Josh go? Josh, are you still there?
My argument might have been that strong.
Your argument was so strong, you kicked Josh off of Skype. Well, fantastic. It would appear that our Gotta Debate the Movies has come to a grinding halt. Ladies and gentlemen, if you will just bear with me for a moment, let's see if we can get Josh back on the line. This is the most professional we've ever been. This is what happens when we have technical difficulties. Anyway, so let's see. Let's go into Skype. Let's see if we can add a new person. And let's see. So Josh Hurley left the Skype call. So let's see if we can call him back. Get him back up in here. And of course, my cat is throwing up on the carpet as we speak. Hold on, please. Wow, ladies and gentlemen, today is one of those days. Today is one of those days. Oh dear. Okay, well, yeah, if you will, tell you what, if you will just bear with us for about 1 minute, give us 1 minute, we'll be right back. Don't go anywhere. I'm going to put the title card back up. Please don't go anywhere. We will be right back. And ladies and gentlemen, we are back. Huge apologies, huge apologies. We just had like a massive breakdown in everything. Like the whole format of the show just fell apart instantly. Again, this is what happens when you do a live show. Josh's internet connection cut out, so he wasn't able to rebut Kay's side of the argument. And as this was all going down, my cat decided now was a great time to start throwing up on the carpet. I was able to shift her slightly, so we missed the carpet. It's on the hardwood floor. I will get to it as soon as the show is over. Everything's fine. We're fine. We're all good here. Kay, how are you doing amongst this hullabaloo?
Oh, this is wonderful. This is the most exciting thing that's happened to me in weeks.
Josh, how are you doing over there?
I'm doing okay for now. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, we'll see what happens in 5 minutes. Okay, so just to catch everyone up, Kay's argument for Claudia Wells was that she was the better Jennifer Parker because the Back to the Future franchise is no stranger to recasting. Originally they had Eric Stoltz as Marty McFly. Then they did 6 weeks worth of filming. They gave it up because it just wasn't working. So then they got thank you. Yeah, then they got Michael J. Fox. Same thing with the guy who played George McFly, Crispin Glover. He was just, there were problems there. Kay, I do have to fact check you on one thing, though. You said that there was a court case and he won that court case. He has not won that court case. It is still ongoing. It's one of those ongoing things that will keep going for perpetuity, but he has not won that particular court case yet. So Josh, taking all of that into consideration, what is your rebuttal for Jennifer Parker? Why is Claudia Wells the lesser of the two?
That's a really good point. Yes, I think Back to the Future, obviously, you bring up some really important facts that there was a lot of casting shuffling going on. However, unfortunately, I feel like the casting shuffling issue doesn't necessarily correlate with the fact that, again, she didn't have a lot to do in the first one. And unfortunately, that was not her fault. That was just the way the movie is written. And she played a very tertiary role in the first movie. In the second movie, she played a much bigger role. She had a much more opportunity to perform and to establish a relationship and to establish her and Marty's relationship and so on and so forth. So I think it's just a simple matter of screen time, honestly, and it's a matter of screen time and it's also a matter of talent. I'm not saying that she's not talented by any means. I just think Elizabeth Shue is considered to be one of a fantastic actor, and I think it was cast very well to replace her, and I think she knocked it out of the park. I don't know what else she could have done with what she got.
Okay, final arguments.
So, with that same line of logic that she did a lot with what she was given, I would argue that Claudia Wells did even more with the less amount she was given. Also, if we're saying screen time isn't important for a character, then I guess Jaws isn't that great of a film, huh?
Ooh. Ooh. Oh.
They
I'm
did
sorry, hang on.
have an electric Elizabeth
Say that
shoe.
once again.
I said, to be fair, they did try to use an electric Elizabeth shoe through some of the filming, but it didn't work, so they used the real one, and it was a much stronger performance.
The radio's on the set that the electric Elizabeth shoe is not working. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So they replaced her with the real one, and it was so much better. But
all right, guys. Oof. Josh, you were. Oh, I hate to keep doing this every show. I feel like Kay always wins the first 2 rounds. Sorry, Kay. Spoiler alert. You're the winner of this particular round again. Josh, where you lost, or not where you lost me, but where I think Kay just, backhand slapped you across the face was in her final arguments. If she was screen time, if screen time was the definitive factor, then Jaws would have,
But I will say this: that's a great comment, and I think that definitely deserves kudos.
Agreed.
But if we're comparing Jennifer to Jaws, I feel like the comparison, I don't know, sinks in the water a little bit, comparing the two great screen legacies.
The two legacies of the screen.
Yes.
Jennifer, Claudia Wells, and Jaws.
Claudia Wells and Jaws.
Wow. Okay, you guys. Yeah. So this is the end of round number 2. Kay takes the point. I think she came back right at the very end. Let's jump down to the comment section below and see what people are saying. Matthew Wells, going back to the Ferris Bueller question, says, I hate Ferris Bueller. It's a creepy movie. Agree. Great episode. Been like 18 years since I heard Josh's dulcet tones. Matthew, you are a champion amongst men, sir. Robbie Spratt says, hang on, Kay has the Rocketeer mask on her shelf. That's true. Kay, here's your Rocketeer mask.
That's it right there.
Wow, that's awesome.
I have it ready in case I need to fight Nazis.
Sounds good. Sounds great. This is, I feel like that's a life lesson for all of us. And then Robbie Spratt goes on to say, Kay wins. This is true. Kay did win round number 2. So all that being said, let's move on to round number 3. And question number 3 is, in 1984, Steven Spielberg was directly responsible for creating the PG-13 rating as a result of making both Gremlins and Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. But which film had the greater impact on the creation of the new rating? I'm not asking which is the better movie. I'm not asking which is the lesser of the 2 movies. Which of these 2 movies had the greater impact on creating the PG-13 rating? So Kay, you were, I think we coin cost for you in the last round. Josh, we will coin cost for you in this round. Heads will be Indiana Jones. Tails will be Gremlins. All right. So it is heads. Josh, you will be arguing for Temple of Doom. And Kay, you will be arguing for Gremlins. So Josh had the coin cost. So Kay, you get this one. Go ahead and kick us off. Why was Gremlins more influential in creating a PG-13 rating? Go.
I think it was more influential in creating a PG-13 rating because of how terrifying it is and how well it skirted that ability to still be within the PG-13 rating, but scary as heck. I mean, that has traumatized a whole generation of children and probably their children at this point, because it's a terrifying film, starting with the moment the Mogwais start to populate, which is already creepy, and then just gets scarier throughout the film. So I would argue that that is why it really defined PG-13, especially at its time.
Josh, what is it about Temple of Doom that made the PG-13 rating happen over Gremlins?
I agree with you. I think that's a good opening argument. I think the Gremlins is definitely It's pretty scary. And however, it was supposed to be scarier. It was originally a horror movie, and they toned it down. So it's actually not as scary as it could have been. And I will see your scariness, and I will raise you reality, because Gremlins is a high fantasy film. Now, as kids, obviously, that's fantasy and reality can sometimes, mesh and stuff, and it's not as easy to tell, but it's pretty obvious that's a fantasy movie. It's not real. Temple of Doom obviously has some fantastical elements in it, but everything that happens is something that conceivably could happen in the real world. And therefore, all of the horror and the sort of vivid imagery of that movie not only can stick with you, but it also is a very sort of like, it's more grounded in reality, which makes it even, I think, a little scarier. And also, in regards to the PG-13 rating, and why we're arguing this, is that it is an adventure movie, and it is sort of a for lack of a better word, like fun. It is, I would say it is the darkest of all the Indiana Jones movies, in some ways. But it also is an adventure movie. So there's some really dark parts and some scary parts, but you can see the balance there between that and the R. And so PG-13 seems to be a perfect rating for Indiana.
Wow, okay. Indiana Jones, reality versus fantasy. Josh has a great, strong argument to that. What's your rebuttal?
My rebuttal is, if I am putting on a film to just like block out reality and just enjoy a movie, I'm not going to go for something that's based in reality. I'm going to go for something that is just, like you said, high fantasy, super silly, but still super scary. How is it that Gremlins is able to bridge that gap between, funny family film and, oh my gosh, this is the scariest thing I've ever seen? Plus, it's not technically a Christmas movie, but it's also like a Christmas movie. Let's be honest with ourselves. This is a fun film to not only watch just like during the regular year, but also like it should be in your box of Christmas films.
Josh, a Christmas film that is both scary and fun to watch. What's your let's make your final argument.
Well, if we're going to call Gremlins a Christmas movie, then I think we need to call Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom a Christmas movie. Why? Because it's all about someone who comes in and tries to save people who are burdened with these heavy laden burdens, and they will be liberated and freed because of the heroic actions and the good actions of another. I think that's a good Christmas message. It's not necessarily a metaphor perfect, but it also this is not a category about is this a Christmas movie or not. But the point is that it is a PG-13 movie because it is an adventure movie. Everyone loves Indiana Jones. I defy you to find people who just hate that movie. Not that movie, I mean the series. That movie, again, it's a little darker. But it's a perfect blend. And you can see why Spielberg would do a PG-13 for this. It's something that, like, as a 13-year-old, of course I wanted to see because it's awesome. But there's some heavy parts and some scary stuff. So PG-13 is the perfect Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom rating, even more so than Gremlins.
All right, Kay, final arguments. Josh was kind of wavering there just a little bit in the first half of his final arguments. Final arguments for yourself. What is it about Gremlins that makes it more influential for PG-13?
I think it's more influential for PG-13 because it caters more to children and people in that 13 age range, as to where the messages that Josh is mentioning, while valid, kind of more apply to adults and older teens, as to where PG-13 is exactly that. It's meant for teens and tweens, and I think a little fuzzy little mogwai is right up their alley. I think that can be evidenced in the popularity of Furbies in the 90s, because that's where the inspiration of the Furby came from.
Ooh, strong closing argument from Kay there. There was one, I mean, you guys kind of went back and forth. Kay, in your first rebuttal against Josh, you had said something about if you just want to go pull a movie off the shelf and enjoy something fun, you're going to go for a fantasy. You're not going to go for a dark action movie. And while that was a good argument, it wasn't a good argument for this particular category because it didn't apply to a PG-13 rating. Same thing for you, Josh. The first half of your closing argument wasn't very strong. It was a little, you're waffling back and forth a little bit, trying to dance around this whole, idea of what is a Christmas movie. And, we could argue that Indiana Jones is a Christmas movie. Again, that doesn't really apply to what makes this more influential for a PG-13 rating. But there was one argument that won me over. It was right in the middle about how the thing that makes something a little edgier is reality. When you get involved in like fantasy, take Lord of the Rings, for example. You can chop the head off of any orc or ent or, like a fantastical creature. And, granted, this is more of a modern day kind of a thing, but you can chop the head off of any fantastical creature and it still gets a lower rating. Whereas, Gremlins is a fantasy film, and those types of rules tend to be much more lenient when going for a more harsh rating. And for that reason, I've got to give the point to Josh. Josh, you earned this one fair and square. Your first point, your first winning point for Gotta Debate Them Movies. Josh, how are you feeling right now?
Very good. Temple of Doom is probably my favorite Indiana Jones movie, so I'm happy that I won on this one. Oh, great. Yay, but you had a good argument. I didn't know how this was going to go. So.
Okay, this is the first round that you did not score a point. How are you feeling? We've got 2 more rounds left. Do you think you can bounce back? Do you think that you can maintain your lead? Or do you think you might have to concede to Josh on this in this particular debate?
That's my official opinion.
Silence? I'm sorry, I didn't see.
Lots of shrugging.
Oh, shrug. Sorry, your internet connection's a little slow, so we're not quite seeing you in real time.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
So, but yeah, so we'll see how it turns out. So, current score, we have 2 rounds left. Current score is K2. Josh won. K2. Look that up. That's a thing. Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, all right, we're going to jump right into debate question number 4. And debate question number 4 is John Williams. We're going back to the Future. John Williams is often attributed with writing the score from Back to the Future, but he didn't. It was composed by Alan Silvestri, who also wrote scores like Predator, Romancing the Stone, and Who Framed Roger Rabbit. So my question is, what I want to know is, who was the better film score composer of the 80s? Was it John Williams or was it Alan Silvestri? Now, it needs to be noted that both of these film composers had extensive careers before the 1980s and after the 1980s. We are not going to argue any of those other films that they've had in the 70s, 90s, 2000s, whatever. We're only going to debate their movies from the 80s. Who was the better film composer of the 1980s? Was it John Williams or Alan Silvestri? Josh, you had the toin toss from the last round. Kay, we're going to give you the toin toss from this round. Heads, it is John Williams. Tails, it is Alan Silvestri. And Kay, you are awarded with John Williams. You will be arguing for John Williams being the better film composer of the 1980s. And Josh, you are arguing for Alan Silvestri for best film composer of the 1980s.
Yeah.
So Josh, I'm going to kick it to you. Kay had the toin toss, so you will kick us off with Alan Silvestri.
Alrighty. Alan Silvestri is sort of the unsung hero of the 80s. I feel like John Williams gets all the pomp and circumstance for being John Williams, and rightfully so. Look, John Williams is in a class by himself. There's no debating that. However, a lot of what John Williams is known for throughout the general public is a couple very specific things. And one of them obviously is what? We all know it, Star Wars, right? Star Wars is the quintessential, I would say, Jaws and Star Wars, 2 of the quintessential John Williams themes. These themes did not come in the 80s. They came in the 70s. Now, granted, there were Star Wars movies in the 80s, but they relied heavily on the themes that were created in the 70s. Same with Jaws and all the sequels thereof. Alan Silvestri had a hand in in one of the, again, we talked about Back to the Future, one of the biggest, not only movies of the 80s, not only trilogy of the 80s, but movie and trilogies of film history. I think you could argue that this has one of the most recognizable soundtracks in all of film. I feel like you could hear this soundtrack and go, that's Back to the Future. Alan Silvestri has created some amazing melodies. Who Framed Roger Rabbit is perfection of that 1930s Hollywood sound, and to blend the cartoon with the reality. He's a master at what he does. Williams is brilliant, but I think if we're talking specifically the 80s, Alan Silvestri is the winner.
Wow, coming out of the gate punching 1-2. Kay, what's your opening argument?
So Josh makes a lot of really great points that John Williams, the two most iconic scores he's arguing are Jaws and Star Wars, which both were in the 1970s and not the 1980s. However, Josh is overlooking something he just claimed was his favorite film ever. Indiana Jones came out in the 80s, and that's when John Williams composed those soundtracks and those scores. And not only that, other iconic things like E.T., Empire of the Sun, the film whose fault it is that I got a degree in World War II cinema. This is exactly the kind of thing that he's overshadowing because he's only focusing and hyper-focusing on two things, Jaws and Star Wars, while both great, completely ignoring Indiana Jones and E.T. and Space Camp, Witches of Eastwick, just so many other great scores.
Wow, Josh, Witches of Eastwick, Space Camp, Indiana Jones, 1, 2, and 3, and what were the other ones? Empire of the Sun. Josh, those are some strong films to contend against. What do you got?
They are. It's like there's a lot of great fighters out there, but there's only one Muhammad Ali, right? And there's a lot of great film scores out there. John Williams created many of them. E.T. is one of my favorites. I love that score. It's one of the most beautiful scores ever. But I feel like the Muhammad Ali of the 80s in terms of film scores, again, I think he got a 1-2 punch in on, proverbially speaking, on Williams with Back to the Future. I think Back to the Future just really is a litmus for the 80s. And granted, I will say Alan Silvestri maybe did not have as many memorable scores completely. However, he had a lot of amazing scores. Again, all the Back to the Futures, Romancing the Stone, Roger Rabbit. But, again, I think the pinnacle, Back to the Future, I feel like if this were an argument about the 70s, I'd probably lose. If this were an argument about the 90s, I'd probably lose. But since it's the 80s and since it's Alan Silvestri, I feel like I can lean heavily on Back to the Future and say absolutely with certainty that that's the best score of the 80s.
Wow, okay. Josh is bringing up images of Muhammad Ali. There can only be one. Double downing on the fact that Back to the Future is a better soundtrack trilogy than the Indiana Jones films. How do you retort to that?
Well, and the idea, going with that logic of there can only be one, let's compare who still has a ride at their theme park. Indiana Jones or Back to the Future? Indiana Jones is the one I can hear at Disney on any day.
Could I rebut that?
Yes, please rebut that, Josh.
Well, if we're talking about music, right, since it is Alan Silvestri and it is music. Now, yes, I will say that Huey Lewis and the News had something to do with Back to the Future. But if we're going to talk about what's being present, currently there was a Back to the Future musical being made. So I feel like in terms of the actual music itself, Back to the Future is still very relevant, still very popular, even specifically talking about the music and the love of the score.
All right, so for me, those last two rebuttals kind of negate each other a little bit. It's modern day iterations of what each composer has done. Kay, what is your final argument?
My final argument is that John Williams' record in the 80s should stand for itself. Indiana Jones, E.T., if we're not counting Star Wars or that was mentioned earlier. And again, films that were smaller known but still won so many awards, BAFTAs, Grammys, Golden Globes, like Empire of the Sun. I think that really stands on its own two legs.
Wow, Josh. BAFTAs, Golden Globes, Academy Awards. How do you argue against that?
I feel like Alan Silvestri did it all. He did the big scores that we love. He did also sort of scores that we in other movies like Outrageous Fortune, The Abyss, Romancing the Stone, Soap Dish. He did a lot of great scores that are, I think, somewhat unsung and undeservedly so. I think the 80s was definitely an Alan Silvestri decade. It's John Williams, no doubt. Everything you've said is true. John Williams does get all the accolades, and he deserves all the accolades. But I feel like out of Coke and the Coke and the Pepsi of the 80s in terms of composers, it's really hard to pick, and so you gotta go with what the people love, and it's Back to the Future.
Gotta go with what the people love, Back to the Future. This is your opening arguments, Josh. Had me. You had me right from the very get-go. Like, that's such a great argument. Jaws, Star Wars, the two scores that he's probably best known for took place long before the 80s even happened. And, you know, they carried over. Kay, you came punching 1-2. I think you had some pretty good defensive blocks, and you had me right at the end with, you know, when it comes to Academy Awards, you know, Alan Silvestri didn't win. Josh, a lot of your argument relied heavily on how great and how iconic and influential the Back to the Future score was, but the reality of the matter is that he never won for any of those scores that he argued for. And had Kay not brought it up, I mean, I may have swung in your direction, but Kay is the winner of this particular round. Kay scores 3-1. You know, we're going into round 5, which is worth 2 points. So the game isn't over yet. How are you feeling that your chances are right now?
I didn't know the last round was worth 2 points.
It's true. Last round is worth 2 points. Since always. So because the last round, I say this because the last round is worth 2 points because it's a mystery question. Neither one of our contestants are going into this particular question knowing anything about it. Only, you know, the general categories that it's 80s related. So so that's why the last question is always worth 2 points. It is just always played to your favor that you have always won the last round.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And what I said about Empire of the Sun is true. I was taking a Steven Spielberg film class, and I watched that, and I went up to my teacher afterward, and I said, can I study just World War II cinema and depictions of and like cinema that happened during World War II? And he was like, yeah, that's definitely a thing. And I was like, great, that's my major now.
That's awesome.
So Josh, you as the contender, you have 1 point against Kay's 3 points. The game's not over. You still have a chance to tie up the game, and then we go into sudden death. So what are you thinking, not knowing what the final mystery question is? Like, how do you think your chances are right now? Yes,
Talking
Josh,
to me?
Mr. Hurley.
Oh, okay, sorry. Well, I think that, I think you have been a very formidable opponent, Kay, and I think you obviously know your stuff, and you are passionate about movies. So it's been a lot of fun to get to debate with you. So no matter what happens, then I've had a great time. But I feel strongly. I feel like the unknown category is exciting to me because I kind of like just working off of just whatever in the moment. So we'll see if that has an effect on it. But I'm feeling really
Sounds good. Well, Josh is weighing his options. He's feeling pretty good as we go into our last and final round. In our last and final, well, maybe not final round, but our 5th round, typically our last round of the game, is this. Ladies and gentlemen, and both of our contestants, what is the most quotable film of the 80s? What is the most quotable film of the 80s? Now, this is an open-ended question. You get to choose and decide whatever answer comes comes to you the best and the clearest. So this is a round where you actually get to choose the film that you are fighting for. So while you guys are thinking about that, let me just jump back to the opening bit right here. If you haven't already done so, I highly encourage everyone to jump over to the Gotta Love Them Movies YouTube page. Just go to youtube.com, type in Gotta Love Them Movies. You'll see a little red square in the top right-hand corner that says subscribe. Go ahead and click that button. What clicking that subscribe button does for us is that it widens our subscriber base. But Mike, we're watching Gotta Debate Them Movies on Facebook Live. Why do we have to go to YouTube? Well, it's really rather simple. By building our subscriber base, we also help to encourage people to watch videos. And the more videos that are watched, the better chances I have to start earning ad revenue. When I start earning ad revenue, I get to make this show my full-time job. So if you enjoy what it is that we're doing here, please go over to YouTube, go to the Gotta Love Them Movies YouTube page, click that subscribe button, and help us build this community where we all just get to sit around and chit chat movies and talk about our favorite things in the world. And don't forget, we also have an 8-bit Donatello up for grabs. If anybody wants to be the winner of, there's a siren, a very loud siren, police siren going on right now. That police siren wants to win this 8-bit Funko Pop Ninja Turtle. If you want to be considered in the running to win this 8-bit Funko Pop Ninja Turtle of Donatello, please jump down to the comment section below and write the words Toy Tuesday 8-bit Donatello. Please make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel and that you like and share this video. Okay, guys, so with all of that down and out of the way, we're going to jump right back into our Gotta Debate Them Movies. Kay, have you had a moment to think about what you personally consider to be the most quotable film of the 1980s? What do you got?
Yes. Airplane.
Ooh, Airplane. Interesting. Great movie. And Josh, how about for yourself? What do you consider to be the most quotable film of the 1980s?
All I gotta say is you're gonna know the answer to this when I ask you, who are you gonna call?
Ooh.
Ghostbusters!
Ooh, here it is, ladies and gentlemen. Ghostbusters versus Airplane. We've got ourselves a fight here. We have got ourselves a fight. Airplane versus Ghostbusters. What is the most quotable film of the 1980s? This is round number 5. Who went first last time? I believe that was Kay. I believe you went first last time, correct?
Probably. I don't know.
All right, Josh, you are going first in this round. As the challenger, you get to go first in round number 5. Ghostbusters, tell us, why is it the most quotable film of the 1980s?
Ghostbusters. We came, we saw, we kicked its ass.
That's your argument?
Look,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
That's my argument. Simple enough. Ghostbusters, come on. Like, there's so many quotable lines in this movie. Look, when you said Airplane, I was like, yeah, Airplane is a great quotable movie. But, like, I feel like Airplane, oddly enough, would be, I think, not as big of the population would be able to quote Airplane as I think Ghostbusters. I think Ghostbusters permeated a little deeper into the consciousness of society, and in terms of the lexicon of everything. Who you gonna call is just like, again, that is the iconic. I feel like if you had a list of film quotes, who you gonna call Ghostbusters is gonna be in the top 5, if not the top answer for the 80s for quotes. Don't cross the streams. If someone asks you if you're a god, you say yes. There's just so many great ones. Go on and on.
Very, very strong coming out of the gate. Kay, what makes Airplane the superior quotable film of the 1980s?
So if we're talking about the idea of film quotes permeating culture and getting into our brains, a film that people quote and don't even realize what it's coming from has to be the best example of that, because you'll hear people say, I am serious and don't call me Shirley all the time. And they might not know what film that's from. That's how deep into our brains that film has gotten. As to who you gonna call Ghostbusters is a super great catchphrase. But is it really like a quotable quote? Is that something you can say in daily life when someone says a hospital? What is it? And you can say a building with patients, but that's not important right now. That is a quote. That is something that's down in your brain. Or the ever-running joke of like, I picked a bad week to quit blank. that's still funny, even if it's something silly like picked a bad week to stop drinking coffee. That is still in our minds, all the way from a film from 1980. That's how much sticking power the quotes from a film like Airplane have.
Josh, sticking power from permeating our culture with these particular quotes in Airplane. How do you combat that?
Look, I'm not going to lie and say that Airplane is not a quotable movie, because it is one of my favorite movies of all time. And yes, it is extremely quotable, and I totally agree with you. And that's a tough one to fight against. But having said that, I feel like, again, Ghostbusters is the, I don't know, I just feel like Ghostbusters has the line to top all of the lines. Again, it's the Back to the Future of quotables. I think Who You Gonna Call Ghostbusters is such a quotable line. Yes, you won't use it a lot in terms of, you're not going to use it like for everything, but I think if you say that, people are going to know instantly what you're talking about. They're going to love it. Also, we don't see a lot of Airplane remakes. We don't see a lot of people clamoring for Airplane remakes. Now, not necessarily meaning that that has a lot to lean in on the quotes per se, but I think, again, talking about permeation in terms of culture, I think all of those Ghostbuster quotes have permeated culture so much that, like, if in the remakes, they're going to be making, they've made some, they've already remade some, they're making another one, there's another one coming out soon. These are things that people want. They want more of, obviously. And so I think Ghostbusters is just truly beloved. Airplane is funny, and it's, again, in a different world, I might be arguing for Airplane 2, but right now, I definitely think that, Ghostbusters definitely is the, culturally, the quotes permeate.
So, Kay, we have more Ghostbusters movies being made. We've had multiple. We've had 2 sequels, and there's a third one yet to come out in theaters. We've only had 1 Airplane sequel so far. What is you talk about the cultural significance and how these quotes from Airplane have become embedded into the fabric of our society. But in terms of remakeability, where do you stand?
Quality over quantity. It's a great film. It doesn't need to be remade. Plus, that cast, there's so many amazing actors, and why would we need to remake it? It was great the first time.
Fantastic. Josh, we're going to go... yes, go ahead.
I will say, we can't go toe-to-toe on the cast on this one. Unfortunately, I feel like Ghostbusters may dominate with cast-wise. I mean, you've got Bill Murray, you've got Dan Aykroyd, it's just like... Come on, that's a tough way to go against, because, man, both of them have great casts, but I feel like...
Okay, so going into our final round of going back and forth here, Josh, what is your final argument to say? Like, what is it? You keep saying Ghostbusters, who are you gonna call? You keep leaning on that one particular quote. What other quotes from the film make it more culturally relevant, and what is it about the quotes that make what is it about the quotes of Ghostbusters that dominate the quotes of Airplane? This is your final argument. Go.
Okay. Look, don't cross the streams. Yes, it's true. This man has no... And you can fill in the blank. Look, if there ever was a quote for today, I think it might be that one. No, I'm just kidding. I don't know. All I can say is there are a lot of great quotes in that movie. It's filled with great quotes. It's a great movie. Again, culturally, I'm leaning heavily into the idea that Ghostbusters, I think, culturally is a little more relevant in that regard, and therefore those quotes have a little bit more weight. Whereas Airplane has so many great quotes, but I think that's where they stay. They stay right there with that movie, and they get a laugh and a smile with that movie. But I feel like with Ghostbusters, you get a lot more leverage and a lot more mileage.
Sounds good. More mileage, more leverage. Kay, what is your final arguments here?
So do we all remember before the internet and before memes and stuff, and we would just hang out in our friends' houses and, say silly things to each other and, quote silly movies we'd seen? My generation's was Napoleon Dynamite. My parents' generation was Airplane. They sat around and joked and quoted Airplane at each other, and everyone had a riot of a time. I don't know that Ghostbusters quite had that same effect. Yes, it was a good film and it maybe had a good couple quotes, but you didn't sit around giggling about it just saying, picked a bad week to stop smoking, or have you ever been to a Turkish prison, to one another, like you do with Airplane. So that's my final argument.
All right, you guys. We've heard back and forth final arguments. Everything has been pretty definitive. I mean, you guys have raised some great points. Kay, you talk about like the cultural impact of how quotable Airplane is in your personal family, and how it also has kind of a larger, broader cultural aspect. Josh, your strongest argument here was that, the quotes in the movie, not just the quotes, have helped to spawn a bigger franchise, but it's how the quotes have made this film more memorable and fun and interesting, and those are the things that have gone off to help create a bigger franchise. Kay, you combat that argument by saying like quality over quantity. I mean, you both have kind of gone back and forth a little bit, and this is a tough one for me, because I love both of these movies. I love both of the quotes in these movies. But at the end of the day, I have to choose a winner. This is what makes my job so particularly difficult. Josh, how you feeling right now?
I'm feeling good. I think I know where you're going with this.
Okay.
But I feel good. I feel happy with that.
You feel happy with that? With how you feeling?
I feel happy with Ghostbusters.
Great.
But yes, well, I'll caveat this after.
Yep. Kay, how you feeling over there?
I had 2 cups of coffee this morning, which is twice as much as my psych says I should have. So it's very interesting feelings over here right now.
Sounds good. Okay. Well, at the end of the day, I have to choose a winner. And, for all of those things that I previously said, Kay, you are the winner. Once again, the reigning champion. You're coming back, not next week, because we're not going to have a show next week, but you will be coming back the following week. Reigning champion. This is what, your fourth win? Third win?
Third.
How many of these shows have we done? Third win.
Are you regretting asking me to do this yet?
Never. Absolutely never. That World War II degree in film studies has really come to pay off.
I need to put it on the shelf so it's in the background so people can see that I'm not lying. I actually have a degree.
It's true.
She's good. She's good. She's good.
Josh,
she
our
knows
challenger, you came in here blind. You actually kind of came in last minute to fill in for us. You had very little time to prepare. How do you feel that you fought today?
I feel good. I feel like I made some good points. I think it's funny because like this is a hard. I love the format, but it's hard because there's also things that like I'm like, I mean, if you have to argue against John Williams or you have to argue against the quotability of Airplane, like oof, like that's not like Airplane. Like honestly, I think you picked like had I thought it through more, I think Airplane is in terms of that because it just simply, I was watching it the other night and just still laughing at all those jokes. So
weeks ago, I had to argue that Crystal Skull was a better film than, was it Raiders?
You had to, yes, Raiders of the Lost Ark versus Crystal Skull. Yeah, you're right.
Physical pain.
that's so hard. Like I can't argue against John Williams. It's hard to argue against Breakfast Club. It's like all of those are just like, they're all so good. So it's like. So hats off to you. Well fought, and that was a lot.
It was a lot of fun, and thank you to both of our fighters today. Josh, I would love to have you back on a future show. I'd love to have you back on like a regular show if you want to come back and debate again. You are more than welcome anytime to try and take on the challenger, try to knock her off her pedestal once again. So Kay, you will be returning in 2 weeks, providing your availability if you are available for our next debate show to try and defend your title, your championship, our three-time winner.
That family on Family Feud that was on for like a year.
Oh yeah.
But you don't want to be those guys.
The Ken Jennings of
Well, maybe you are going to be the Ken Jennings of Gotta Debate Them Movies. Who knows? Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us. I've been checking out your live questions and comments as we've been going through. Thank you so much for being a part of the discussion. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for providing some of the questions for us today. Josh, before you go, any last words?
Yes. Bueller.
Kay,
Anyone?
before we go, any last words?
Bueller.
Alaska's always trying to kill you.
This is true. A few weeks ago on the show, there was a bear walking through Kay's neighborhood, and we were on high alert. Is anyone going to die in this episode of Gotta Debate Them Movies? Ladies and gentlemen, thank you again so much for joining us. Thank you for being part of the discussion. Thank you for being part of the community, and thank you for liking and sharing these videos. And speaking of liking and sharing these videos, if you like this video, please click like. If you really like this video, click subscribe. And if you really, really like this video, click share, because that is exactly what Ferris Bueller would want you to do. Anyway, guys, my name is Mike Brown. We live in a very weird and strange world right now. I ask you, please speak kind words to each other. I ask that you please infuse a little bit of kindness into the world today. If you have an opportunity to perform a random act of kindness, please take that opportunity. Hold a door open for someone. Carry somebody's groceries. Or, I don't know, maybe not. In a COVID world, that might not be the greatest of things, but you know what I mean. You know what I'm talking about. If there's an opportunity to infuse a little bit of kindness into the world, please take that opportunity. Anyway, guys, as I've been saying, next week we don't have any shows coming up next week. I have to go back to my flying job all of next week, but coming in October, brand new shows Monday through Friday coming right to you. Oh man, my sign off needs some work, doesn't it? Anyway, I will see you in two weeks. I'll see you a week after next. Anyway, my name is Mike Brown, and until next week, I'll see you later.